Information-fueled.
Opinion-driven.
This is Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis.
And so, my fellow Americans,
we talk news.
5:06, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. If you do nothing else today, you've got to be listening Joan and KGB at 5:35.
Because?
I am going to play one of the most unhinged rants I have ever heard.
Wait, is it
And I've heard a lot of unhinged rants.
LJ initials?
Or
LJ.
KO?
Yes, it is LJ.
Okay,
It
good.
is LJ.
Really?
Letitia James.
Yes.
Worse than Keith Oberman?
Yes.
Yeah, oh,
worse
yeah.
than Keith
That-
Oberman.
You know that's saying something.
And her words
That is-
say a lot. She's panicking. And she is absolutely
be.
unhinged. If you haven't heard the story, then I'm going to get into the big story of the day. And there are several. But Letitia James, of course, you know that she is in the crosshairs of the Trump administration. She's been caught lying to financial institutions for better loans, which is exactly what she tried to get Donald Trump on. And her response is, oh boy. So I cannot wait to play that for you. That is coming up. Also, are Republicans running from Donald Trump? We keep hearing from the Democrats that the Republicans are running from Donald Trump. What does Harry Enton say over at CNN? You've got to hear this as well. So we've got a lot going on here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The Super Text line, by the way, is open at 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. Go to my page on X, so you can follow me on @DanMandisShow. I have linked to a story from our friends at the Tennessee Star. They are now reporting that Kilmar Abrego Garcia was stopped in our state back in 2022, and he was suspected of human trafficking. Abrego Garcia was suspected, and this is, Michael Patrick Leahy, the Tennessee Star. You can read the whole thing. Find it on X @DanMandisShow. But here's what they say. Abrego Garcia was suspected of being engaged in human trafficking by a Tennessee Highway Patrol officer who detained him back in December of 2022, leading the THP to contact the FBI for guidance. Within 2 hours, the FBI, under Joe Biden, ultimately requested the THP release Garcia and the passengers in his vehicle. And THP complied with that request. Unbelievable. You know what I'd be curious about? I would be curious who those 7 other people in that car were. Because, when you see these things, right, you see the human trafficking that goes on, and sometimes they get pulled over, sometimes they get into car accidents, and the doors fling open and everybody just scatters like cockroaches. That's what this was like. But I want to know who else was in that car and what crimes they have committed. That's what I want to know. Here's the story. The Star learned from sources familiar with the incident that Abrego Garcia was stopped for an unknown reason on December 6th of 2022. The THP officer responsible for the stop immediately discovered Abrego Garcia was transporting 7 passengers with 8 individuals inside the vehicle. During a nearly 2-hour traffic stop, the Tennessee Highway Patrol officer determined that Abrego Garcia was operating the vehicle, here's a shocker, without a valid driver's license, and began searching for information about him. One source telling the Star that the Tennessee Highway Patrol ultimately discovered Abrego Garcia was on a terrorist watch list, but could not locate Abrego Garcia on a deportation list. Another source telling the Star the THP did not discover Abrego Garcia on a terrorist watch list, but that another one of the 7 passengers in the vehicle may have been on a terrorist watch list. And they just let him go. So you've got Abrego Garcia, no license, pulled over. He's got 7 people in the car. Abrego Garcia on a terrorist watch list. They could not locate him, though, on a deportation list. Again, another source telling the Star that THP did not discover Abrego Garcia on a terrorist watch list, but that another one of the 7 passengers in the vehicle may have been on a terrorist watch list. I think we can all agree that it's a little sus when you've got a dude with 7 other, I'm assuming, clearly illegal aliens in a car. The guy has no driver's license, and they're all, at least one of them, was on a terrorist watch list. So they contact the FBI, and the FBI says, "Oh, let him go. Nothing to see here." THP subsequently called the FBI, which was then led by former Director Christopher Wray under the Biden administration. The FBI instructed the THP officers at the scene to capture photographs of all 8 people in the vehicle and document its contents. Once the photographs were captured, this source telling the Star the FBI requested THP release all 8 individuals and that the THP officers complied with this request. I want to know who these other 7 were, because we already know that Abrego Garcia is an MS-13 gangbanger. I want to know what these other 7 ultimately ended up doing. As our own Tennessee Highway Patrol pulls these guys over, according to the Star, contacts the FBI, and they say, let them go. Unbelievable. But this is the Biden administration. Information about this incident, including the identity of the THP officer, the officer's badge number, and the computerized dispatch report code assigned to the incident, are all known to the Tennessee Star, which is currently, they say, withholding the information. Would like to know why, but I'm sure that they'll get around to that. Sources familiar with the computerized dispatch report of the incident telling the Tennessee Star that the officer who filed the report confirmed that the 7 individuals in the van were being transported from Texas to Maryland by Abrego Garcia. Notably, it is a misdemeanor offense in the state of Tennessee to operate a motor vehicle without a valid driver's license. Anyone convicted of this Class B misdemeanor faces up to 6 months in jail. They've reached out to all the different agencies asking for responses, and they are waiting to hear back. The Tennessee Star is.
This is a frightening story. That's just one time that it happened. How many times has it happened that we don't know about?
Well, that's exactly right, Joan. And they could have they pulled him over. They could have held him under, I would assume, Tennessee law for driving without a license. I mean, I don't know why. And there's a lot of questions here.
Oh, yeah.
And we don't have all of the answers. This story just came out, hours ago. But, I mean, that would be my question. Because we have learned with the situation with Chris Hand, when he got hit by a non-English speaking, licensed illegal alien, that the THP officers, it's up to the officer's discretion as to whether or not they bring the person in.
Right. They can shrug their shoulders and let him go like they did in Chris's case.
Yeah. So why wouldn't, in this case, and maybe this is why the Tennessee Star is withholding the name of this officer, but okay, they contact the FBI. You've got at least one of the guys on the terrorist watch list, maybe 2. I don't know. It seems a little conflicting in that one paragraph. But at least one of them was on the terrorist watch list. Clearly, all of these guys are illegal aliens. The very least that the officer could have done was taken in Abrego Garcia and contacted, maybe local authorities, but brought him in for driving without a license. Then they could have eventually figured out that all these guys are illegal aliens and pop them for human trafficking.
So is THP under an obligation to follow what the FBI tells them to do?
That's what I don't know.
I don't understand why they have jurisdiction over something that's happening in a state.
I mean, that is a great question, because he was violating state law.
Correct.
He was violating state law by driving without a license. And so you would think, and maybe I'll try to reach out to some folks this morning to find out why they felt compelled to listen to the FBI. when in fact he was breaking, number one, there's got to be some state laws regarding human trafficking within the state of Tennessee. There's got to be state laws as it relates to that going through the state of Tennessee. And certainly he violated state law by driving without a license. So I don't know. I don't know why nobody did anything. It's like here in the state of Tennessee, there does seem to be a rather lackadaisical approach to these dirtbags in our country driving without a license, can't speak English, violating our laws, running into our cars, and endangering our people in the state of Tennessee. The hell, man. You know, it's almost like you listen to some of these state legislators and you hear them talk, and they like to talk tough about illegal immigration. And, we're working with and cooperating with the Trump administration, trying to deport illegal aliens and so forth. Well, how about this? How about come up with some legislation within the state legislature and then signed by the damn governor, where if a THP officer or if any officer pulls over a guy who doesn't have a damn license, can't speak the language, then it is imperative and mandatory that you haul their ass into court and then deport them. Why don't they do something like that? Get really tough on crime so that you make it non-favorable to illegal aliens coming into our state, because that's what's happening. They're coming into our state because they apparently know that they can get away with it. Because when they get pulled over by a cop and they can't speak English and they've got a bunch of illegal damn aliens in their car and they're transporting across our state, that they're just going to be able to get away with it. Well, that escalated quickly. It is 5:18. Jones, what are we doing? We got to do traffic right now. Did we do traffic?
We did not.
Joan, you got me all riled up.
That's good, though.
5:18. Time to check the roads on WTN. You know what I'm saying, though?
That you're all riled up? Yeah, I know.
No, I mean, why do you leave it up to the discretion of the officer that pulls over a non-English speaking, no driver's license, illegal alien? And why is it not mandatory for that officer to charge that person with a crime and do whatever it is that they need to do legally so that you pull that person off the streets? So why is it up to the officer's discretion? Exactly.
And that happened in 2022. So is it different now? Are they still doing these practices?
No, that's the thing. Well, yes, apparently they are, because that's what happened with Chris Hand.
Chris, yeah. So something's got to change, like pronto.
Yeah, you hear the the state lawmakers talk, and it's like, well, we need to look at this legislatively. Well, you've known that this has been a problem for a long time. You know, I actually had a horrifying thought. Abrego Garcia was going to Maryland, right? He's got 7 of these dirtbags traveling to Maryland.
One known to be on the terrorist watch list.
What happens if one of those guys turns out to be the one that killed Rachel Morin?
Yeah.
I thought about that. Now, I think if I remember correctly, that dude, he was in other states as well. I don't really know. But it is rather a horrifying thought. So anyway, we'll have to see where this ultimately goes. It is 5:21 on Nashville's Morning News. But if you want to read that article from the Tennessee Star, local angle now, with the Tennessee Star reporting that Kilmar Abrego Garcia stopped in our state back in 2022. I'm not sure if that was before or after he beat the hell out of his wife, but we've got more on that story as well straight ahead on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super text line is open, 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. By the way, watch us on Facebook if you would. You can watch us on YouTube, Facebook, X, and also on our website, supertalk997wtn.com. By the way, what is our KGB every single morning, Joan? We struggle over what the Daily Dan poll should be. Remind me, KGB, what is our Daily Dan poll today on YouTube?
Yeah, so do you think if Judge James Boasberg, did I say that right?
Yeah.
Is impeached, then Democrats will go after conservative judges. Do you think
Yeah.
this will happen? Yes or no?
Yeah, because there's a lot of folks that are saying, because, he's going after Trump again. I've got that story. But you know what I don't get about Boasberg? He doesn't have jurisdiction.
He doesn't.
That's
So
what the Supreme Court said.
how does he have so much say over what the administration is doing?
I don't know.
And he's going to haul him now in for contempt? I mean, he could jail people for this.
Yeah. Didn't Mark Levin actually tweeted out that Boasberg was actually in contempt of court?
Ha.
Right. In contempt of the Supreme Court.
Yeah. Yes.
Because Boasberg does not have jurisdiction. That was the Supreme Court's ruling. So
he's
I
loving
don't
the
get it.
publicity. I guarantee you. He wants to be on interviews. He wants to be on CNN. He wants to be on The View.
No, I don't. You know what?
Nope. He's on the take.
He's on the take. Yeah. I mean, you've got a great point, KGB. I'm not saying you're wrong, but he hasn't been running around doing interviews. But what he has been doing is at every turn, he's trying to block Trump from doing what he needs to do. I think it is clear that Boasberg is part of the resistance within the Democrat Party. I'm sorry. So what does the poll say?
It's 95% yes.
Okay. So the poll question is, should the Republicans try to impeach Boasberg, which, by the way, the chances of him actually getting impeached are slim to none because of the numbers in the House. There's a lot of Republicans who would not go along with Boasberg getting impeached, so it's a numbers game. And the House Republicans don't have the numbers to actually impeach Boasberg, and then you go to the Senate and same issue there. So bottom line is, the question is, do we start going down that road? Because then when the Democrats, Lord help us, get back in power, then they could do the same thing to conservative judges. And
They might even go after people in the Supreme Court.
And
like
they
the
could.
actual Supreme Court, not a state Supreme Court.
they could. So anyway. 524, Joan Jones, what's coming up in the news at 5:30?
Well, we'll have the latest information about Kilmar Abrego Garcia's past. Also, President Trump does an end run around Chuck Schumer to get a nominee placed in New York. We've got those stories and more coming up here at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.